If you're over 40 and believe your greatest earning years are behind you, I'm about to share with me why you may be standing at the threshold of the most prosperous decade of your life, if you'll only recognize it. Good evening. Tonight, I want to talk with you about something that concerns a great many men who've reached that milestone of 40 years or beyond, who look at their bank accounts, their responsibilities, their obligations, and wonder if they've somehow missed their chance. If the great opportunity has passed them by, let me tell you something, nothing could be further from the truth. You see, there's a curious thing that happens to a man at 40. Society whispers to him that his best years are behind him, that the young lions are taking over, that innovation belongs to the 20-somethings with their bold ideas and endless energy. And if he listens, if he actually believes this nonsense, then yes, it becomes his reality. But here's what I know, and what the evidence of countless successful lives proves beyond question. A man at 40 possesses something far more valuable than youth. He possesses judgment, experience, the scars of lessons learned. And if he'll apply what he knows with the same energy he once wasted not knowing, he can build wealth that would astonish his younger self. The millionaire's fortune you seek isn't hiding in some secret stock tip or lottery ticket. It's waiting in the application of principles, timeless principles that work as reliably as the law of gravity. Let me share with you 16 of these principles, not theories, principles. Recognize your prime. 40 isn't the beginning of decline, it's the beginning of prime. You've spent 2 decades making mistakes, learning your craft, discovering what works and what doesn't. This knowledge is capital, real capital, and it's worth more than any amount of youthful enthusiasm. PRNCPLE. Adopt a new measurement. Stop measuring your worth by your salary. Start measuring it by the value you create. A salary is what someone pays you to show up. Value is what you generate that others will pay dearly to receive. When you shift from employee thinking to value, creator thinking, everything changes. PRNCILPREE. Study money honestly. Most men don't understand money. They think they do, but they don't. They confuse income with wealth, spending with investing, assets with liabilities. Get yourself educated. Read what the wealthy read. Study how money actually moves and multiplies. This education is more valuable than any college degree. PRNCIPLE for you are live on 70%. Here's a rule that will transform your life. Live on 70% of your income. Save and invest 20%. Give away 10%. This formula has created more millionaires than any stock market scheme ever could. Why? Because it instills discipline, and discipline is the foundation of all wealth. PRNCPE solve expensive problems. Money flows toward solutions. The bigger the problem you solve, the more money flows your way. Stop looking for easy opportunities. Look for difficult problems that people will pay handsomely to have removed from their lives. PRNCIPLE6. Leverage your experience. You've spent 20 years or more accumulating knowledge in your field. This expertise is a gold mine. Consult, teach. Create products or services based on what you know. Your experience is the raw material of fortune. PRNCIP7. Build systems, not just income. A job gives you income. A system gives you wealth. Create something that works whether you're there or not. A business. Investments. Intellectual property. Your goal is to build machines that produce money while you sleep. MCPOEEGHT. Guard your health jealously. All the money in the world means nothing without the health to enjoy it. At 40 and beyond, you cannot abuse your body and expect to build lasting wealth. Exercise, eat properly, sleep adequately. Your body is the vehicle that will carry you to your fortune. Maintain it accordingly. PRNCPLE. And eliminate the unnecessary. Simplify ruthlessly. Cut out activities, possessions, and even people who drain your energy and add no value to your purpose. Every hour wasted is money lost. Every dollar misspent is a fortune delayed. Become austere in pursuit of your goal. PRNCPL10. Think like an owner. Even if you're employed, think like an owner. How would you improve this business if it were yours? What inefficiencies would you eliminate? What opportunities would you pursue? This mindset is magnetic. It attracts opportunity because people sense your value. PRNCPE11. Network with intention. Your network is your net worth. But don't network like a beggar looking for favors. Network like a person of value looking to exchange value. Associate with people who are building, creating, achieving. Their standards will become your standards. PRNCPLV. Invest in cash-flowing assets. Speculation is gambling. Investing is buying assets that put money in your pocket every month. Real estate that generates rent. businesses that produce profit, dividend-paying stocks. Build a portfolio that pays you to own it. Financialfreedom and develop multiple income streams. One source of income is a vulnerability. 3 sources is stability. 5 or more is wealth. Don't depend entirely on your job, no matter how secure it seems. Create side businesses, investments, royalties, multiple channels through which money flows into your life. Become a student of success. Read biographies of successful men. Study their patterns, their principles, their habits. Success leaves clues. The man who builds a fortune at 45 is simply following patterns that have worked for centuries. Learn these patterns. And delay gratification masterfully. This is perhaps the most difficult principle and the most rewarding. The ability to say not yet, to pleasure in favor of yes, to long-term gain is what separates the wealthy from the comfortable. Every dollar you don't spend frivolously as a soldier in your army of wealth. Sict and protect what you build. Insurance, legal structures, estate planning, emergency funds. The man who builds wealth without protecting it is a fool. Guard what you create as carefully as you created it. Now, let me give you the central truth of this entire message, the quote I want you to remember. Become what we think about. A man who thinks about wealth with clarity, purpose, and consistent action cannot help but attract it. It is law. You see, my friend, this isn't positive thinking. This is recognition of how the human mind works. Your thoughts direct your attention. Your attention directs your actions. Your actions determine your results. It's cause and effect, as predictable as sunrise. The man who thinks constantly about his bills, his limitations, his age, his missed opportunities, he gets more of the same. The man who thinks about value creation, opportunities, solutions, and purposeful action, he gets more of that. You're not too old. You're not too late. You're not without resources. What you are is standing at a unique point in your life where experience meets opportunity, where wisdom can be converted into wealth, where the lessons you've paid for with time and mistakes can finally pay dividends. But, and hear me clearly on this, none of this happens by accident. You must decide today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. Today, SERURLOI, Good evening, I was talking with a man the other day, 43 years old, intelligent fellow, good head on his shoulders, and he said something that stopped me cold. He said, Earl, I look at these young entrepreneurs, these kids in their 20s building empires, and I think, I've run out of runway. Run out of runway. As if life were an airplane that had to take off by 30 or be grounded forever. Now, before I tell you why that's completely wrong, let me ask you something. Have you ever had that thought? That knowing feeling when you read about some 25-year-old tech millionaire, or when you're the oldest person in the room at a business seminar, or when you calculate how many working years you have left. That whisper that says, you're late, you missed it. The train has left the station. If you have, you're not alone, and you're not crazy, but you are mistaken. Here's what I want you to consider. Really think about this. Colonel Sanders was 62 when he franchised Kentucky Fried Chicken. Ray Kroc was 52 when he built McDonald's into an empire. Sam Walton was 44 when he opened his first Walmart. These weren't anomalies. These weren't lucky breaks. These were men who understood something fundamental about time that most people completely miss. They understood that time isn't just the passage of years. Time, when filled with experience, becomes wisdom. And wisdom is the most valuable commodity in the marketplace. Think about it this way. At 25, you have energy, tremendous energy. You can work 18-hour days and bounce back. You have boldness, maybe even recklessness. But you know what you don't have? Judgment. You don't have the ability to recognize a bad deal before you sign it. You haven't yet learned which people to trust and which to avoid. You haven't felt the sting of a failed venture enough times to spot the warning signs early. But at 40, at 45, at 50, you've accumulated something priceless. You've made mistakes. Good Lord, you've made mistakes, and each one has deposited knowledge into your account. You've seen business cycles. You've watched trends come and go. You've learned which principles endure and which are merely fashionable. This is compound interest of the mind, my friend, and it's worth more than any trust fund. When a 25-year-old has an idea, he charges forward. Sometimes he succeeds spectacularly. More often, he learns expensive lessons. When a man at 45 has an idea, he runs it through 2 decades of filters. He asks better questions. He sees the obstacles before they appear. He knows which shortcuts lead to cliffs and which lead to destinations. Your age isn't your anchor. It's your advantage. Every gray hair represents a lesson. Every line on your face marks a problem solved. Every year you've worked, struggled, succeeded, and failed has been adding to your capital, your intellectual capital, and that's the kind that creates lasting wealth. The young man has time. The experienced man has timing. And timing in business, as in everything else, is what separates the winners from the wishful thinkers. You haven't run out of runway. You've simply finished your pre-flight checks. You actually know how to fly now. The question isn't whether you have enough time. The question is, what will you do with the advantage you've earned? Good evening. Let me tell you about a conversation I overheard in a restaurant last week. Two men, both around 50, sitting in the booth behind me. One was complaining about his financial situation, 30 years of steady work, decent salary, but somehow always behind. Always scrambling. The other asked him a simple question. Do you know the difference between an asset and a liability? There was a long pause. Then the first man said, well, sure, an asset is something you own. And right there, in that answer, was the reason he'd never build wealth. Now, I don't tell you this to embarrass anyone or to seem superior. I tell you because that man's confusion is almost universal. We live in a society where people spend decades earning money, but never spend a single evening learning what money actually is, how it behaves, where it goes, why it multiplies for some people and evaporates for others. It's like trying to garden without understanding that plants need sunlight and water. You might accidentally grow something, but you'll never create abundance. So let's pause right here and consider something important. Money isn't mysterious. It isn't magical. It doesn't favor the lucky or the connected or the ones with secret handshakes. Money operates according to principles, natural laws, if you will, and these laws are as reliable as the law of gravity. The trouble is, nobody teaches them to us. In school, they taught you algebra and history and literature. All valuable, certainly. But did anyone ever sit you down and explain how compound interest works? How inflation erodes purchasing power? The difference between earning money and building wealth? The mechanics of how $1 in your pocket can become $10, then 100, then 1,000? Of course not. So we stumble through life treating money like a mystery, hoping somehow it'll work out, crossing our fingers that the company pension will be enough. Here's the truth that changes everything. Money is simply a measure of value exchanged. That's it. It flows toward value and away from waste. It multiplies when invested and disappears when consumed. It obeys predictable patterns that have remained unchanged for centuries. When you truly understand this, I mean really grasp it deep in your bones, something remarkable happens. You stop seeing money as something you chase and start seeing it as something you attract by creating value. You stop being mystified by wealthy people and start recognizing that they simply understand principles you haven't learned yet. An asset, by the way, is something that puts money in your pocket. A liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. That house you're so proud of, if it costs you money every month in mortgage, taxes, and maintenance without generating income, it's not an asset, it's a liability. That expensive car in your driveway, liability. That rental property generating monthly cash flow, asset. That business you built that runs without you, asset. See how simple it becomes when you understand the actual definitions. This is what I mean by understanding. Real understanding. Not just nodding along, but genuinely comprehending how the system works. The beautiful thing, the truly liberating thing, is that this understanding is available to anyone willing to study. You don't need a Harvard degree. You need a library card and curiosity. You need to read what the wealthy read. Study what the successful study. Learn the language of money like you'd learn any foreign language. Because once you understand how money works, you stop being its servant and become its master. And that, my friend, is when wealth becomes inevitable. Good evening. I received a letter last month from a listener, a man of 47 who'd been trying to start a business for 3 years. 3 years. He'd read the books, taken the courses, even quit his job to pursue his dream. But here's what he told me. Every morning I wake up filled with ideas and determination. By noon, I'm paralyzed. By evening, I've convinced myself it won't work. I go to bed promising tomorrow will be different. Then the whole cycle starts again. He ended the letter with a question that haunted me. Earl, am I just weak? No, my friend, you're not weak. You're untrained. Let me explain what I mean by that, because this distinction is absolutely critical to everything we're discussing about building wealth after 40. Your mind, that remarkable instrument between your ears, is the most powerful tool you possess. More powerful than any computer, any technology, any external resource. But here's the problem. Most of us go through our entire lives never learning to operate it properly. We let it run wild, like giving a child the keys to a bulldozer and hoping for the best. One moment you're thinking about your business opportunity. The next moment you're thinking about a bill that's due. Then you remember something your brother-in-law said about people who fail. Then you're wondering if you're too old. Then you're imagining disaster. Then you're back to the opportunity, but now it's contaminated with doubt. All day long thoughts crash into your consciousness like waves on a shore. Random, undirected, contradictory. And each thought triggers an emotion, and each emotion influences your next action or your paralysis. This is why two men with identical opportunities end up with completely different results. It's not talent. It's not connections. It's not even effort. It's mental discipline. Now here's what most people don't realize. You can train your mind the same way you train your body. It takes practice. It takes consistency. But it absolutely can be done, and the results are nothing short of miraculous. Think of your mind as a garden. Right now, if you're like most people, it's overgrown with weeds, worry, doubt, fear, distraction, resentment. These weeds didn't grow because you're defective. They grew because that's what happens to any garden left untended. Nature abhors a vacuum, and your mind will fill itself with whatever is around it: the news, other people's opinions, past failures, imagined catastrophes. But you are the gardener. You decide what gets planted. You decide what gets watered. You decide what gets pulled out by the roots. When you wake up and choose to spend the first 30 minutes reading something purposeful, instead of scrolling through bad news, you're planting seeds. When you catch yourself spiraling into worry and deliberately shift your attention to your plan and your next action, you're pulling weeds. When you write down your goal every morning and visualize its achievement, you're watering the plants you want to grow. This isn't mystical. This is mechanics. Every thought you think is either moving you toward your goal or away from it. Every mental image you hold is either constructive or destructive. And only you, get to choose which thoughts you entertain and which you dismiss. The wealthy man has learned this discipline. When doubt appears, and it appears for everyone, he acknowledges it, then consciously redirects his attention to what he's building. When fear whispers, he doesn't argue with it. He simply focuses on the next productive action. Your fortune begins in your mind, under your control. Master the garden, and the harvest becomes inevitable. Velet CRDMST. Good evening. I want you to imagine something for a moment. You've worked for the same company for 20 years. Good company. Steady paycheck, benefits, the whole package. You show up at 8, leave at 5, do your job well. You're reliable. You're competent. Then one day the company restructures. Your position is eliminated. And just like that, after 2 decades of trading your time for money, the money stops. How long would your savings last? A month, 3 months, 6 if you're fortunate. This scenario plays out thousands of times every year, and it reveals something most men never stop to examine. They've built their entire financial life on the most fragile foundation imaginable, the exchange of hours for dollars. Now, I'm not criticizing employment. A job is a perfectly respectable way to make a living. But, and this is crucial, it's a terrible way to build wealth. Let me ask you something. What did you sell today? Your time. What will you sell tomorrow? Your time again. What happens when you're sick? No time sold, no money earned. What happens when you're 65 and don't want to sell time anymore? The income stops. You see the problem. You're locked in a cage where your income has an absolute ceiling, the number of hours in a day multiplied by what someone's willing to pay per hour. 24 hours, that's it. That's your limit. And you can't even sell all 24 because you need to sleep, eat, and live. But let me tell you what happens when you shift your thinking from time to value. Everything changes. Everything. Value isn't constrained by hours. A book you write once can sell 1 million copies. A system you create can serve 10,000 customers. A solution you develop can solve problems for people while you sleep, while you're on vacation, while you're doing something else entirely. This is the difference between linear income and exponential wealth. Linear income grows by addition. You add more hours. Exponential wealth grows by multiplication. You create something once, and it multiplies through the marketplace. Consider this. A plumber charges $75 an hour for his time. He's trading hours for dollars. A smart plumber writes a book called The Homeowner's Guide to Plumbing Emergencies, creates an online course teaching basic repairs, and develops a product line of plumbing tools. Now he's earning money from his knowledge, his expertise, his reputation, and it happens whether he picks up a wrench that day or not. Same man, same knowledge, completely different financial reality. Here's what I want you to understand: your job has taught you something valuable. Maybe it's sales, management, engineering, design, problem solving. You've spent years, perhaps decades, accumulating expertise. That expertise is raw material sitting in your head, and most people take it to the grave without ever converting it into anything beyond a paycheck. But it doesn't have to be that way. At 40, 50, even 60, you possess knowledge that people would pay for. Problems you can solve that the market desperately needs solved. Experience that has genuine monetary value if you'll package it, systematize it, and offer it. The question isn't whether you have value to offer. You do. The question is, will you continue renting yourself by the hour, or will you start building assets that work for you? Your time is limited. Your value isn't. Build accordingly. Instancy y defats anti-NCITY. Good evening. There's a man I know, let's call him Robert, who decides every January that this is the year he's going to get wealthy. He attacks it like a wildfire. Reads 5 books in 2 weeks. Attends every seminar, works until midnight. Calls everyone he knows with his new business idea. For 3 weeks, maybe 4, he's unstoppable. A machine. Then February comes, the intensity fades, the enthusiasm cools. By March, he's back to his old routines, telling himself he'll start again when things settle down, when he has more energy, when the timing is better. December arrives, and Robert is exactly where he was the year before. Now, there's another man, we'll call him Thomas. Thomas doesn't make dramatic announcements. He doesn't work himself into exhaustion. But every single morning before breakfast, he spends exactly 1 hour on his wealth-building activities. Some days he feels inspired. Doesn't matter. The hour happens anyway. Reading, planning, building, investing. 1 hour every day. After 5 years, Robert has a collection of unfinished projects and unfulfilled promises to himself. Thomas has a thriving side business generating 6 figures annually. What's the difference? Robert relied on intensity. Thomas relied on consistency. Here's what happens when you understand this principle, really internalize it. You stop waiting for the perfect moment, the surge of motivation, the ideal circumstances. You stop believing that success requires heroic effort or superhuman discipline, because it doesn't. Wealth isn't built in explosive bursts. It's built in daily deposits. Small, unremarkable, consistent actions that compound over time into something extraordinary. Think about how a river carves through solid rock. It's not force. A river doesn't attack the stone with violence. It flows steadily, day after day, year after year, century after century. And eventually, the persistent water creates canyons. That's exactly how wealth is built. You don't need to work 18-hour days. You need to work the right 1 or 2 hours every single day without fail. You don't need to make massive, risky bets. You need to make small, intelligent decisions repeatedly until they become automatic. Invest 20% of your income every month for 20 years, and you'll have wealth. Miss a few months here and there because you got busy or discouraged, and you'll have significantly less. The difference isn't in the size of the action, it's in the reliability of it. Here's the beautiful part: consistency is actually easier than intensity. Intensity requires constant willpower, constant energy, constant emotion. You have to psyche yourself up. You have to push through resistance. It's exhausting. But consistency becomes habit. And habits don't require willpower. They require routine. You brush your teeth every morning without having a motivational conversation with yourself about it. You just do it. It's automatic. That's what your wealth-building activities need to become. Automatic, expected, non-negotiable. Not because they're exciting, though sometimes they will be, but because they're scheduled. The man who saves $500 a month for 30 years will become a millionaire. Not through brilliance. Not through luck. Through simple, boring, utterly reliable consistency. The man who reads 30 minutes about investing every single day will, within 5 years, know more than 95% of the population. Not because he's smarter, because he showed up. The tortoise beat the hare not by accident, but by principle. Slow, steady, persistent progress will defeat spectacular but inconsistent effort every single time. This is law. Your wealth doesn't need fireworks. It needs footsteps, one after another, the same direction, without stopping. Start today. Stay tomorrow. Success is inevitable. You will become a beaut. Good evening. I want to tell you about two brothers I knew growing up. Same parents, same house, same schools, same opportunities. One became a successful business owner. The other spent his life complaining about never getting a break. And if you'd asked them, both at age 20, what they thought about most of the time, you would have predicted their futures with absolute accuracy. The first brother thought constantly about opportunities, solutions, and possibilities. The second thought constantly about obstacles, unfairness, and limitations. Two men, same start, completely different destinations. And here's what troubles me. The second brother never understood why his life turned out the way it did. He blamed the economy, bad luck, other people. He went to his grave believing he'd been cheated by circumstances. But he hadn't been cheated by circumstances. He'd been directed by his thoughts. Now, before you dismiss this as simple positive thinking or some kind of mystical nonsense, let me ask you to examine your own life for a moment. What have you thought about consistently over the past 5 years? Your debts, your limitations, your age, the unfairness of the system, how hard everything is. And what do you have more of now than you did 5 years ago? Probably exactly those things. This isn't magic. This isn't wishful thinking. This is how the human mind works, and once you understand the mechanism, you can use it deliberately instead of accidentally. Here's what actually happens. Your mind is a goal-seeking instrument. It's designed to find solutions, to create paths, to move you toward whatever you're focused on. But, and this is critical, it can't tell the difference between what you want and what you're merely thinking about. It simply accepts whatever dominates your consciousness and begins working to make it real. When you think about debt constantly, your mind goes to work on that. It finds more things to worry about. It notices more bills. It creates anxiety that prevents clear thinking. It programs you to act in ways that perpetuate the problem. When you think about wealth constantly, not wishing for it, but actually contemplating how to create it, studying it, planning it, your mind does something entirely different. It starts noticing opportunities you would have walked past before. It draws your attention to solutions. It connects ideas that were always there but invisible to you. It literally reshapes your perception of reality. Two men can walk down the same street. One sees problems everywhere: trash on the sidewalk, graffiti on walls, closed businesses. The other sees opportunities: undervalued real estate, potential customers, gaps in the market that need filling. Same street, different minds, different futures. Your thoughts aren't just passive observations of life. They're active instructions to your subconscious mind about what to create. Let me give you a practical example. If you spend 30 minutes each morning visualizing yourself as financially successful, seeing the bank balance, feeling the security, imagining the freedom, something remarkable happens. Not because the universe magically delivers money to you, but because your behavior throughout the day unconsciously shifts. You make different decisions. You notice different things. You take different actions. The salesman who thinks, "I'm going to make 3 sales today," approaches prospects differently than the one thinking, "This is going to be hard." Same products, same customers, different mental programming, different results. You're not a victim of your circumstances. You're a product of your dominant thoughts. And unlike your circumstances, which can sometimes be beyond your control, your thoughts are completely, absolutely, 100% under your command. Right now, at this very moment, you can choose what to think about. That choice is the beginning of everything. Think wealth, and you'll find it. Think lack, and you'll keep it. It's that simple and that profound. Here's what I want you to do the moment this message ends. First, write down your wealth goal. $1 million, or whatever number represents freedom to you. Write the specific date by which you'll achieve it. This is your contract with yourself. Second, choose just one of these 16 principles and take immediate action on it today. Not all 16. 1. Open a separate savings account. Read one chapter of a book on investing. Identify one expensive problem you could solve for others. One action. Today. Third, schedule 30 minutes tomorrow morning, before the world makes demands on you, to review these principles and plan your next step. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. The man you'll become at 50, 55, 60, the wealthy, accomplished, financially free man, is waiting for the man you are today to make a decision and take action. Everything you need is already within you. The knowledge, the experience, the capability. What's required now is the decision to use it deliberately, systematically, and persistently toward a worthy goal. Your greatest years aren't behind you. They're ahead of you if you'll claim them. The time is now. The person is you. Make it happen. Good night.